Hello, my name is Sue McNiven. Some people might know me as Chicks in Rubber if you're on Ravelry. The company name is also Handspun-Exotics. This is just a little demonstration I'm going to do on how to draft your fibre using a dog comb to anchor it down so that you don't have to hold it with your backhand. This is really to demonstrate that you can draft forward without holding on to it in a death grip. So the whole point of it is that you can see that you are actually drafting forward and that you're not holding it back by using your backhand inadvertently. So we'll get the wheel set up and we'll carry on with the demonstration. So the first thing I'm going to do is adjust the tension on the bobbin to make sure that it is actually pulling in nice and smoothly. And as you can see, while I'm treadling, I can allow the leader to go onto the bobbin and then pull it straight back off again. Now if for instance I don't have enough tension on the bobbin, when I try to feed this back on you can see it's starting to wrinkle up and loop. It's not pulling on at all. So we'll just change that again. Now, if you put too much tension on the bobbin it'll just rip it out of your hand and you won't be able to get any decent join, and you'll find that you're forever having to thread up because you're not developing enough twist in the yarn. So just a couple of little adjustments, that'll do fine. So, get rid of that twisted bit where I've been developing a bit too much twist. Testing it out. So we're going to have a nice fluffy end to start with. I'm going to join this onto the fibre supply. So the wheel going in a clockwise motion to produce a Z twist singles. At this point I'm just going to put the brush underneath the fibre supply and just push the fibre onto it, and then we're going to get the wheel started. So now you can see that my front hand is pulling forward. Now the pinch here is really hard and tight so that the fibre can't slip between your fingers and you're not sliding your finger up the yarn that you're producing. You're actually pulling the fibre out of the mass. Now the length that you draft is determined by the length of the fibre. So if you draft too far you'll find that you get a thin spot, and wherever you get a thin spot you normally get a thick spot behind it. So to get nice even yarn, don't draft too far forward, and you can see that I'm letting go of the fibre after every draft. That allows the twist to run, and also it means that it tells me how fast my hands have got to work to keep up with the twist. I'm just going to take this off again and just replace it back onto the brush. I don't want too much sticking out the front because if it's a short fibre I can end up just pulling masses of it out instead of it being anchored at the back. So this is just as a little demonstration. I wouldn't normally spin this way at all. So at the moment this is quite a thick yarn I'm producing, and this is alpaca. So once you've got that feeling going and you can see that your hand is moving all the time, that there's no point when there's actually a stop and a hold. If you hold it here and stop with your hands you end up building lots and lots of twist up, and when you let go it just shoots into the mass and you end up with a big tied up knot. So keeping your hands moving means that you don't get that binding up of twist holding too much fibre. So I'm going to take it off the brush now. Just straighten it a little bit. I'm going to use exactly the same motion, but this time my hand is holding the fibre supply, and this time I'm going to thin it down a little bit. So the front hand again is still moving all the time. And if you find that your fibre is pulling off to one side, you can turn your supply over. There's nothing to stop you pulling as you draft, pulling it sideways if it's a little bit tight, and that'll loosen it up for you. But the backhand again is still quite light. I'm not holding on to it really tightly. Now all of the fibre is controlled by the backhand, so as you can see it's all in the palm of my hand here, and the only bit that's coming out between my finger and thumb is what I want to present to the twist. So your backhand, although it's not doing a huge amount, it is quite mobile. And again, letting go after every draft means that the twist is allowed to run. In this case, the twist is grabbing the fibre at the point of the drafting zone here, and I'm doing a tiny little unroll between my finger and thumb, which allows me to open out the drafting zone a little bit and then draft to the thickness that I want it, so that all the time I'm producing a regular even thickness of yarn. I'm not drafting too far forward on each one, I'm drafting quite quickly but very short, and the length of the fibre dictates how big the drafting zone is. So if I've got very long fibre, the drafting zone will be a long triangle, whereas if I'm doing very short fibre, a quarter or half an inch or so, the drafting zone will be very much shorter, but I can still draft with a very short, quick drafting action, and that minimises thick and thin sections in your yarn. I'm just going to show you how to check how much twist you've got to see whether it's how you want it to be. So if I pull this back, double it over, and then just hold the bottom of the double section and then let it go. Now that to me is a very nice yarn.